Hey, welcome back. Well, we finally made it to the Season 3 finale, and today we're checking out Talitha Cumi, episode 24 of Season 3. Talitha Cumi debuted May 17th, 1996, and follows Mulder as he searches for a man who can heal by touch alone after his mother suffers from a stroke. So as you can tell, this is going to be a very fun episode. We begin at a fast food joint with the worst menu ever. I mean, look, every single one of these burgers is the exact same. The homeless guy from Jersey Devil seems to have found work, only to lose his job and now his mind.
Nobody moves! Everybody stays!
He lets the children go, but I'm not quite sure what his goal is with holding up a burger joint. Also, what is this woman doing with her jaw? A mystery man tries to talk the frazzled man down, and it almost works, until these two ruin it for everyone and he just starts randomly shooting people. Somehow the mystery man manages to heal the shooter with his touch. But wouldn't the man just get back up and keep shooting? Go heal the people he shot, not him! Mulder and Scully arrive on the scene, but nothing's making sense because anyone that was shot seems to be perfectly fine. Scully speaks to one of the victims, who I'm pretty sure is just an assistant to Rob Bowman, while Mulder has a little chat with the shooter.
God spared my life today. He took pity on my soul and he washed away my sins. He reached down and he healed me with his hand.
It's hard to argue with him. I mean, Space Jesus did heal him just by touching him. Seems this mystery healer just somehow up and vanished. They had him in custody and the next thing they knew he was gone. Oh hey look, it's Mulder's mother. I sure hope there aren't any crazy revelations. I didn't know the Mulders were Italian. This summer home seems like a nice little getaway spot. Lots of trees, the water, cigarette smoking men. Wait a minute. Cigarette smoking man? What the hell is going on?
He was a good water skier, your husband. Not as good as I was, but then that could be said about so many things.
By the way he's talking, you'd think Mulder's mother hooked up with him or something, but there's no way. Looks like we've got ourselves a peeping Tom though. Back at the crime scene, one of the detectives claims he spoke with their mystery healer, one Jeremiah Smith, but when he looked away for a second, the man was gone, like he just vanished. Mulder gets a call from Skinner informing him his mother has suddenly fallen ill and he needs to get his ass down there pronto. I'm sure Cigarette Smoking Man had absolutely nothing to do with it either. I mean, their conversation looked super friendly. Well, it turns out his mother had a stroke, and just like Jeremiah Smith, the tube in her mouth also performs a vanishing act between these edits. His mother wakes up and on a notepad writes the word palm. This is no time for riddles, Mrs. Mulder.
She's had what's called a subarachnoid hemorrhage.
Subarachnoid? What do basement spiders have to do with this? Even though his mother just had a stroke, he thinks because she wrote palm on that notepad and Jeremiah Smith healed people with his hands that there must be some kind of a connection. They watch unedited news footage of the event, which just so happened to catch the exact moment the detective was speaking to Jeremiah Smith when he disappeared. What are the odds?
You see that?
Yeah.
It's like he's gone, but there's somebody else in his place.
At the Social Security Administration, a bunch of cigarette smoking man's hired goons find and capture Jeremiah Smith. I can only begin to imagine what CSM wants him for. I'm not sure carting him around like Hannibal Lecter style was really necessary though. Mulder makes his way to the family summer home, but he's not alone. His buddy X is there as well, and he has something Mulder needs to see.
Did he hurt her? No, she collapsed after he left. I dare say if I hadn't been here to make the call, she might not have survived.
So X was the creepy snoop in the woods. X claims CSM wants something from Mulder's mother, although the way he was talking earlier, it sounded like he already got it. At the FBI, Scully gets the shock of her life when Jeremiah Smith shows up because he saw in the news it said he fled a crime scene, so he's turning himself in. But I thought Jeremiah Smith was captured by CSM. He basically just gives them the runaround claiming he doesn't remember anything, so this entire meeting was really just a waste of time. Later that night, Mulder arrives back at home in search of whatever X claimed could be in the house. But it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Mulder doesn't know what he's looking for or where. Oh come on, there's no way she meant a lamp. Mulder sure believes it though, so he does the logical thing of smashing the lamps in the house. But eureka! He found something. Oh goody, it's one of those alien stabby weapons. Meanwhile, Cigarette Smoking Man has a little one-on-one with his buddy Jeremiah Smith. CSM is pretty unhappy with what he did at the fast food joint because it could ruin their plan for something. They're talking very vague about some project, but Jeremiah Smith gives CSM the shock of his life when he suddenly shapeshifts into Deep Throat. Mulder comes barging into Skinner's office and demands to know who CSM is and where he can be found because of what happened to his mother. However, Mulder did have an opportunity to end him at one point and refused to take it, so he really only has himself to blame. Mulder believes CSM is trying to kill Jeremiah Smith, so they meet him at work and take him into custody.
Hey! Fuck it! What's this from?
He pulls his old vanishing act on the agents, but Mulder was being really vague with what he wanted him for, so I don't blame the guy for getting scared. CSM has another chat with Jeremiah Smith, and this time he turns into Mulder's father. They talk about God and people losing faith. There's so much to unpack in these scenes that I really cannot do them justice. But according to Jeremiah Smith, CSM is dying of lung cancer, and as we all know, Cigarette Smoking Man definitely dies, and we never see him again. Oh, well, this should be interesting. The second Jeremiah Smith was the bounty hunter this whole time, and he brought Mr. Stabby with him. The bounty hunter has come to kill Jeremiah, but he's somehow vanished yet again. Mulder's mother has gone into a coma as her state has gotten worse. Oh man.
You gonna smoke that? Or you wanna smoke on this?
Do it! Blow that cigarette through the back of his f***ing skull. Nothing to see here, nurse, just move along. CSM claims his mother contacted him because he may have information about Samantha, but who would trust this ass? Plus, the whole Samantha thing has been misdirect after misdirect, so can any of it be trusted? Scully does a little research and discovers the Social Security Administration has a bunch of Jeremiah Smiths working for them, and somehow they never notice they have multiple men with the same name who all look identical working for them. Sure, they're in different cities, but still.
Do you have it? Do you have it?
Yes.
Give it to me.
X finds Mulder in a parking garage because he wants Mr. Stabby. Apparently, it's the only thing capable of killing those bounty hunters, or whatever the hell Jeremiah Smith is. Mulder refuses to give up the weapon, so the two men stunt doubles get into a fist fight. If I had to put money on someone though, I'm putting it all on X. They end in a draw and Mulder leaves, but not before X tells him he's a dead man. Scully gets home after a long day of work, and someone comes knocking at her door. Unfortunately, it wasn't me because I was only 10 years old at the time, but it turns out to be Jeremiah Smith. But the question is, which Jeremiah Smith?
I have important information for you, something your partner has been seeking. Concerns an elaborate plan, a project, and his sister.
He claims he has information from Mulder concerning Samantha, and the man Scully spoke to before was nothing more than an imposter sent out to kill him. Mulder calls at the perfect time and tells Scully to meet him somewhere discreet so they can figure this all out. Mulder pulls the weapon on Jeremiah because he doesn't exactly trust him, and well, who can blame Mulder? But before they get into any Samantha business, Mulder wants Jeremiah to come to the hospital with him so he can help out his mother.
He's here to kill me.
Ooh, looks like this party is just getting started. Talitha Cumi is a very solid mythology episode, but I don't know if it offers up anything we haven't already seen before. The shape-shifting alien bounty hunter stuff is always fun, but a bit familiar. The biggest takeaway for me was always the interaction between Mulder's mother and Cigarette Smoking Man. He made some comments that suggest they have some history together, though at this point we really don't know the extent of that history. The conversations CSM has with Jeremiah Smith are also really good, but can be a little confusing if you're not paying attention to what's really being said. And at this point, can Mulder trust anyone when it comes to his sister? Anytime he gets caught up with someone claiming they know something, someone ends up dead, or Mulder winds up right back where he started. The episode was written by Chris Carter with help from David Duchovny. Large portions of the episode, especially the scenes between Cigarette Smoking Man and Jeremiah Smith, were largely inspired by the story The Grand Inquisitor found in this book by this author. Now, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce either because I know I'll garble them like I do most words. I've never read this story, but from my understanding, it's basically about a Grand Inquisitor that promises man everything he could ever want, but in return has to give up his freedom. Freedom of choice, freedom of will, freedom of rejection. It's much deeper than that, but that's the very surface level idea anyways, or again, how I understand it. While writing this episode and the next, Chris wanted the overarching theme to be about loyalty. He wanted to test Mulder's obligations to the X-Files by seeing if he would be willing to sacrifice his search for his sister, his mother, and Scully, while Cigarette Smoking Man was given the choice of saving his own ass from his lung cancer or pushing that aside to prop up the Syndicate's main goals. The title of the episode, Talitha Cumi, comes from the Bible, Mark chapter 5, verse 41. Talitha is an Aramaic name meaning little girl, and in the passage, Jesus uses Talitha Cumi to bring a young girl back from the dead. He says to her, Talitha Cumi, which translates to little girl, I say to you, arise. Although depending on which version you read, it seems to differ just slightly, but all meaning basically the same thing. The fight between Mulder and X was heavily edited by standards and practices. They really seemed to have it in for this show when it came to any kind of violence, and this was just a fist fight between two guys. How bad could it really have been that they had to step in? Regardless, the fight was mostly performed by stunt doubles, which is pretty obvious when watching, but at some point Stephen Williams managed to hurt his shoulder. Remember, this guy is a trained fight choreographer, and last time he fought Skinner, they broke part of the elevator set, so he really likes to make it look believable. The scene with Jeremiah shapeshifting had to be completed over several days. The first day of filming, Jerry Hardin, Deep Throat, was unavailable as he was filming something else, so when they brought him in, they had to rebuild the set and match the footage as much as they could because all of William B. Davis's footage and Roy Thinnis, the man who played Jeremiah, were already shot. Also, Melinda McGraw was supposed to come back as a third shapeshift into Melissa Scully, but she wasn't available at all for filming, so her scene was scrapped. I'm kind of glad that wasn't included anyways, because I'm not really sure it fits. Cigarette Smoking Man has a connection to Deep Throat and Bill Mulder, so it makes sense he sees both of them. But does he really have a connection to Melissa? His men killed her, but that was an accident and was meant to be Dana. If Jeremiah had turned into her, I'm not sure it would have much impact on Cigarette Smoking Man because he really doesn't know her. Maybe that would be more for the audience because we know he's responsible for what happened, but I'm not sure. For Talitha Cumi, we have a new recurring character in Jeremiah Smith. Roy Thinnis was cast as Jeremiah after David met him on a plane flight that two had taken together, and David suggested to Chris that they use him. Chris was already a fan of Roy's as he grew up watching him in the sci-fi series The Invaders, a series about a man who discovers a plot about alien visitors planning to take over the world. Sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? I guess we'll have to throw The Invaders up with The Twilight Zone and Kolchak for shows that inspired The X-Files. Roy Thinnis was born April 6, 1938 and is probably best known for his role in the show Invaders, but he's done a ton of work. From Battlestar Galactica to Satan's School for Girls, which I'm pretty sure I own. He last appeared in the film Broken English in 2007, and at 86 years old, he's all but retired these days. Talitha Cumi currently sits at 8.6 on IMDb, and I'm somewhere between a 7 and an 8. I like it, but like I've said many times, I'm more of a fan of the Scooby-Doo style Monster of the Week stuff than I am ongoing stories, and this goes for any show, not just the X-Files. Well, that's it for Season 3. As with my previous seasons, next up I'll be dropping my personal episode ranking video, which is always fun, and a lot harder to do than you'd think. I can never make up my damn mind, even once I've finished the video, and then once that's out of the way, we can dive into Season 4 with the episode Herrenfolk. So what do you think of this Season 3 finale? Let me know down in the comments. Anyways, that's all for today, folks. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and stay spooky.
All the lies.
I want his name. I don't know his name.
All the secrets.
I had information on the whereabouts of your sister.
Will finally be revealed.
What we're talking about is colonization.
Don't miss the season finale.
You're a dead man, Agent Mulder.
Everyone has been waiting for. Of the X-Files, Friday at 9, 8 Central.